Tell us in the comments where in the world you are watching from and at what time, so I can get to know you better. To support the channel for free, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. For over 4,500 years, a single colossal structure has dominated the horizon, a testament to human ambition and an enigma that has baffled historians, engineers, and dreamers alike. It is the last surviving wonder of the ancient world, a mountain of stone built with a precision that defies its age. We think we know its story, a tomb for a pharaoh, built by a legion of slaves. But what if the story is far more complex, more mysterious, and more incredible than we've ever been told? Join us as we journey back in time, peel back the layers of sand and secrecy, and explore the monumental legacy of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Tell us in the comments where in the world you are watching from and at what time, so I can get to know you better. To support the channel for free, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Before the descent into madness, before the phantom whispers and the crushing weight of a lost empire, there was a girl born into the heart of European royalty. She was Marie Charlotte Amélie Augustine Victoire Clémentine Léopoldine, born on the 7th of June, 1840, at the Royal Palace of Laeken in Belgium. As the only daughter of King Leopold IV of the Belgians and Louise of Orléans, Charlotte's blood was a tapestry of European power. She was a first cousin to both Queen Victoria of Great Britain and Victoria's husband, Prince Albert. From her earliest days, she was enveloped in a world of immense privilege and suffocating expectation. Her education was formidable, reflecting her father's intellectual rigor. She was fluent in French, German, English, and Italian, well-versed in history, philosophy, and music. Yet, this intellectual fire was housed within the strict confines of 19th century royal womanhood. Her world was one of carefully managed appearances, political alliances, and the constant, unspoken duty to marry well. Charlotte was not content to be a mere pawn. She possessed a fierce intelligence and a restless ambition that strained against the gilded bars of her cage. She watched her brothers, Leopold and Philippe, being groomed for power and command, while her own path was directed towards a suitable throne, not as a ruler, but as a consort. Observers noted her serious, almost severe demeanor, a stark contrast to the expected pleasantries of a princess. It was a seriousness born of a deep-seated desire for purpose, a yearning to make her mark on the world, not just to adorn it. This profound ambition, nurtured in the opulent but restrictive palaces of Belgium, would become the driving force of her life. It was a potent, dangerous energy, seeking an outlet, a grand stage upon which to prove her worth. She did not yet know that the stage she would find, across an ocean in a land she couldn't imagine, would demand not just her ambition, but her very sanity. In the grand ballroom of European royalty, where marriages were treaties and love was a political afterthought, a genuine connection sparked. In 1856, a 16-year-old Charlotte met Archduke Ferdinand Maximilian of Austria, the younger brother of the powerful Emperor Franz Joseph I. Maximilian was everything Charlotte was not: a romantic, a dreamer, a passionate botanist, and naval commander who felt stifled by the rigid protocols of the Habsburg court in Vienna. He was tall, handsome, and possessed a charm that captivated the serious young princess. For Charlotte, Maximilian represented an escape and a partner. For Maximilian, Charlotte's sharp intellect and unwavering ambition provided a grounding force for his own lofty, often impractical, dreams. Their courtship was swift, and they married on July 27, 1857. Their union was, by all accounts, a love match. They shared a passion for art, nature, and most importantly, a mutual frustration with their secondary roles. As the emperor's younger brother, Maximilian was given the governorship of Lombardy Venetia in Italy. There, at their stunning seaside home, Miramare Castle, they attempted to create their own idyllic court. They poured their energy into the palace and its magnificent gardens, cultivating a life of refined beauty. But it was not enough. Their liberal-leaning policies in Italy clashed with Emperor Franz Joseph's staunch conservatism, and they were soon recalled, their political influence curtailed. This dismissal was a deep wound to their pride. They were relegated to a life of splendid isolation at Miramare, rich in beauty but devoid of real power. It was in this environment of frustrated ambition that their shared dream of ruling their own kingdom truly took root. They saw themselves as enlightened, benevolent monarchs, destined for something greater than a life in the shadow of Maximilian's brother. They yearned for a realm where their progressive ideals could flourish, where they could build a legacy together. This shared yearning made them vulnerable, a perfect target for the grand, perilous offer that was about to emerge from the political turmoil of the New World. Their love story, born in a European palace, was about to become the prelude to an imperial tragedy. The opportunity Maximilian and Charlotte craved arrived cloaked in the grand ambitions of another ruler, Napoleon III of France. The French emperor had his own designs on the Americas, seeking to curb the growing influence of the United States by establishing a friendly, Catholic puppet monarchy in Mexico. Mexico itself was a nation fractured by years of brutal civil war between the conservative, church-backed faction and the liberal reformist government of President Benito Juarez. After Juarez suspended payments on foreign debts, France, along with Spain and Britain, intervened militarily. While the latter two nations soon withdrew, French forces remained, driving Juarez from Mexico City. It was then that Napoleon III, in concert with a group of exiled Mexican monarchists, needed a respectable European royal to place on their newly fabricated throne. Their eyes fell upon the ambitious and available Archduke Maximilian. The offer was presented to Maximilian and Charlotte not as a French imperial project, but as a genuine plea from the Mexican people. The monarchists painted a picture of a nation weary of chaos, yearning for the stability and prestige that a European monarch could provide. They assured the couple that the populace would welcome them with open arms. To legitimize the offer, a so-called plebiscite was held in Mexico City, under the watchful eyes of the French army. The result, unsurprisingly, was overwhelmingly in favor of the monarchy. It was a carefully constructed illusion, a political mirage shimmering with the promise of glory. Charlotte, more than anyone, was convinced. Her ambition saw only the grand potential, a vast, historic nation that she could help shape and modernize. She urged a hesitant Maximilian to accept, seeing it as their destiny. They made their acceptance conditional on the popular will of the Mexican people, a condition they were falsely led to believe had been met. In a solemn ceremony at Miramare Castle on April 10, 1864, Maximilian formally accepted the crown of the Second Mexican Empire. In that moment, they were no longer a sidelined archduke and princess. They were emperor and empress, stepping into a dream that was, in reality, a carefully laid trap. In late May 1864, the steam frigate Novara, the same vessel that had taken Maximilian on his scientific voyages, carried him and his new Empress Charlotte to their supposed destiny. As they approached the port of Veracruz, they expected cheering crowds and a jubilant welcome. Instead, they were met with a chilling silence. The city was deserted, its windows shuttered, the local populace showing only cold indifference or outright hostility. The liberal government of Veracruz had refused to officially welcome them. It was a jarring and ominous beginning, the first crack in the beautiful facade of their imperial dream. The journey to Mexico City further exposed the harsh reality of their new domain. The country was not the unified nation they had been promised, but a battleground. The landscape was scarred by conflict, and their procession required the constant heavy guard of French soldiers. The cheers they did receive felt hollow, orchestrated for the benefit of the new monarchs by conservative elites and French commanders. This was not a kingdom won by popular acclaim. It was a territory occupied by a foreign army. Upon reaching Mexico City, they established their court at the magnificent Chapultepec Castle, which they lavishly remodeled. Charlotte threw herself into her duties with relentless energy. She undertook tours of the country, visiting remote towns, championing educational reforms, and drafting laws to help the impoverished indigenous population. She often acted as regent when Maximilian was away, proving to be a more decisive and politically astute ruler than her husband. But their every action was underpinned by a fatal contradiction. While they genuinely sought to win the hearts of the Mexican people with liberal policies, even upholding some of Juarez's land reforms, to the fury of their own conservative backers, their authority was entirely dependent on the French bayonets that had put them on the throne. The liberal Juaristas saw them as foreign usurpers, puppets of Napoleon III, while the conservatives who had invited them felt betrayed by their progressive leanings. They were politically isolated, ruling a phantom empire from a castle on a hill, while the real war for Mexico's soul raged on in the mountains and countryside, led by the man they could never defeat, Benito Juarez. Far to the south, where the fertile black land of Egypt met the stark deserts of Nubia, lay the ancient quarries of Aswan. This was not a place of soft limestone or workable sandstone. This was the source of syenite, a granite of legendary hardness and beauty, glowing in hues of deep red and speckled pink. For millennia, this was the birthplace of Egypt's most enduring monuments, the colossal statues of pharaohs, the precisely crafted sarcophagi destined for royal tombs, and the towering single-stone obelisks that scraped the sky. The work here was a brutal, relentless battle between human will and primeval stone. Under the searing sun, thousands of laborers toiled in a landscape of dust and heat. Their primary tool was not metal, which was too soft, but dolerite, a stone even harder than the granite they sought to master. Hour after hour, day after day, workers would pound the granite bedrock with heavy dolerite balls, slowly, painstakingly pulverizing the rock to create deep trenches around the desired block. The rhythmic thud of stone on stone was the percussive heartbeat of the empire's ambition. Once the trenches were deep enough, the true genius of the quarrymen was revealed. They would carve small slots along the base of the megalith and hammer in wooden wedges. These wedges were then soaked with water. Over several hours, the wood would swell with immense, irresistible force, exerting thousands of pounds of pressure per square inch. A loud crack would echo through the quarry, a sound of victory as the megalith finally split from its mother rock. The greatest testament to their ambition and the catastrophic risks involved still lies in Aswan today, the unfinished obelisk. Had it been completed, it would have been the largest in history. But a flaw, a hidden fissure in the granite, cracked it during the quarrying process. It was abandoned where it lay, a 1,200-ton monument to the Herculean effort and the heartbreaking fragility of their monumental endeavors. While the pharaohs ruled from grand palaces, the men who built their eternal homes lived in a specially constructed village, a place we now call Deir el-Medina. Tucked away in a desolate valley on the west bank of the Nile, this was a city of builders, a community of the most skilled artisans, stonemasons, and artists in the entire kingdom. Known in their time as Setmat, the place of truth, these were not the slaves of popular imagination. They were highly respected, well-compensated state employees. Archaeological excavation of their village has provided an unprecedented window into the daily lives of ordinary Egyptians. The village was laid out on a grid, with stone-walled mud brick houses packed tightly together. Inside, these homes were decorated with frescoes and contained furniture, pottery, and personal items. The workers were organized into two gangs, the left side and the right side, mirroring the crew of a boat, and they worked in 8-day shifts within the royal tombs. Their payment was not in coin, but in rations of grain for bread, vast quantities of beer, fish, vegetables, and oils, a salary that placed them firmly in the middle class. The administrative records, kept meticulously on limestone flakes called ostraca, reveal a surprisingly literate society. These notes detail work logs, supply requests, legal disputes, and even love poems. They tell us of men taking sick days, complaining about their superiors, and trading goods with one another. Most remarkably, they document the first recorded labor strike in human history, around 1152 BC, when the state-supplied rations for the tomb builders failed to arrive. Chanting, "We are hungry," the artisans laid down their tools and marched on the mortuary temples to demand their pay. This was a city of real people, with families, beliefs, and a profound sense of their own value. The true architects of eternity. Once a megalith was freed from the Aswan quarry, an even greater challenge began. Its journey to the temples and pyramids hundreds of miles to the north. This colossal feat of logistics was made possible by the lifeblood of Egypt, the Nile River. The entire operation was timed to the rhythm of the Akhet, the season of inundation. Each year, the Nile would swell, flooding the plains and bringing the water level much closer to the quarries and the final construction sites. This annual flood was the divine highway upon which the empire was built. First, the massive block, weighing hundreds or even thousands of tons, was painstakingly maneuvered onto a massive wooden sledge. Hundreds of men, their bodies glistening with sweat, would haul the sledge over a specially prepared causeway, its surface likely lubricated with water or silt to reduce friction. Their destination was a purpose-built canal leading from the quarry to the river's edge. Here, the true giants of Nile transport awaited, the barges. These were not single vessels, but likely enormous rafts constructed by lashing multiple broad-beamed ships built from imported cedar together. Papyrus reliefs from the Temple of Hatshepsut depict the transport of two massive obelisks on a single enormous barge towed by a fleet of smaller boats rowed by nearly 1,000 men. Loading the stone, was a perilous engineering puzzle. It's believed they would position the barge in a temporary basin, drag the obelisk or statue over it, and then flood the basin to lift the barge with its cargo. The journey downriver was a slow, majestic procession, a testament to centralized power and meticulous planning. It was both a logistical marvel and a sacred event, carrying the very substance of a god-king's eternal legacy on the gentle, powerful embrace of the Nile. Arriving at the construction site, the final and most mystifying phase of the operation began: raising the stones. How did a civilization without iron tools, pulleys, or wheeled vehicles lift multi-ton blocks with such precision to build the Great Pyramid? The answer, most archaeologists agree, lies in the ingenious use of the simple machine, primarily the inclined plane or ramp. Yet, the exact nature of these ramps remains one of history's most debated topics. A single, long, straight ramp extending from the ground to the pyramid's peak seems impractical. It would eventually have required more material and labor than the pyramid itself. Other theories propose a series of zigzagging ramps built onto one face of the pyramid, or a corkscrew ramp that spiraled around the exterior as it grew. A more recent and compelling theory suggests an internal ramp, a spiraling corridor just inside the pyramid's outer casing, which would explain the lack of external evidence. Whatever their form, these ramps were massive earthworks of their own, constructed from rubble, mud brick, and desert clay, their surfaces hardened with gypsum mortar. Once near their final position, another simple machine came into play: the lever. Teams of workers would have used large wooden levers to painstakingly nudge and pivot the blocks into their exact place. Small bosses, or knobs, left on the sides of some blocks may have served as anchor points for these levers. The precision they achieved is staggering. The casing stones of the Great Pyramid were fitted so perfectly that a knife blade cannot be inserted between them. This required not only masterful engineering, but also an incredible system of measurement and quality control. While we can theorize about ramps and levers, the full scope of their techniques, the subtle knowledge passed down through generations of master builders, remains partly shrouded in time, a lost art that allowed them to shape stone and build for eternity. The arrival was not the triumph they had envisioned. When Maximilian and Charlotte landed at Veracruz in May of 1864, the port city greeted them with a chilling indifference. The streets were sparsely populated, the official welcome was muted, and the tropical heat was a suffocating blanket of reality. This was the political desert they had come to cultivate, a land scarred by decades of conflict, where the very idea of a European monarchy was an alien concept. Yet Charlotte, ever the dutiful and optimistic princess, saw not a desert, but a canvas. The journey inland to Mexico City was an arduous trek through a landscape of immense beauty and stark poverty, a constant reminder of the monumental task ahead. Upon reaching the capital, they established their court at the magnificent Chapultepec Castle, a fortress palace overlooking the sprawling city. Here, they began their work of laying the foundation for a new empire, applying European precision to a world that did not operate on European principles. Charlotte threw herself into the project with vigor. She meticulously planned grand renovations for the palace, envisioning a court that would rival those of Vienna or Paris. She championed public works, advocated for the construction of railways, and drafted plans for social reforms aimed at improving the lives of the indigenous population, whom she felt a genuine, if paternalistic, sense of duty towards. Together they issued decrees, established orders of chivalry, and dictated the minutiae of court etiquette. It was an attempt to build a nation from the top down, to impose a blueprint of stability and enlightened monarchy onto a fractured and fiercely independent society. But every precisely drawn line on their imperial map was met with the shifting sands of reality. The Juarista forces, far from defeated, waged a relentless guerrilla war in the countryside. The French army, their supposed protectors, operated with its own agenda, often at odds with the emperor's. The very foundation they were so carefully trying to lay was built not on solid ground, but on the political desert of foreign occupation and civil war, a base far too unstable to support the weight of their imperial dreams. At the heart of the fledgling empire was the emperor himself, and his seat of power, Chapultepec Castle, became less of a palace and more of a political tomb, a granite sanctum. Inside this king's chamber, Maximilian found himself increasingly isolated, trapped by the very forces that had placed him on the throne. He was a man of liberal ideals, a believer in constitutional monarchy and progress. But these principles put him on a collision course with his own supporters. When he upheld the liberal land reforms enacted by his enemy, Benito Juarez, he permanently alienated the powerful conservative landowners and the Catholic Church, who had expected him to be their champion and restore their confiscated properties. This single act, meant to win over the Mexican people, instead shattered his domestic political base, leaving him suspended between two irreconcilable worlds. His relationship with the French military command, particularly Marshal François Achille Bazaine, was equally fraught. Maximilian saw himself as the sovereign ruler of Mexico, while Bazaine viewed him as little more than a figurehead for French geopolitical interests, leading to constant clashes over military strategy, funding, and authority. The emperor's office became a chamber of frustration. He would spend hours drafting decrees and legislation, meticulously planning a modern state. Yet his power to enact these plans was perpetually undermined. He was surrounded by a court of Mexican aristocrats and European adventurers, but true allies were scarce. The grandeur of the castle, with its imported furniture and Habsburg traditions, only served to highlight his profound disconnect from the nation he was meant to rule. This sanctum, intended to be the strong, unshakable core of the empire, was in reality a cold, hard prison of his own making. He was the king in his chamber, a monarch with a crown and a throne, but without a kingdom that truly accepted him, his authority as solid as a granite wall, yet just as confining and immovable. While Maximilian grappled with the political realities inside his granite sanctum, Charlotte orchestrated the public face of the empire, turning the halls of Chapultepec into a grand gallery of imperial splendor. She hosted magnificent balls, where European waltzes mingled with Mexican society, her elegance and intelligence charming even the most skeptical members of the elite. State dinners were lavish affairs, designed to project an image of stability, permanence, and sophisticated European culture. They embarked on grand tours of the country, Charlotte ever the more engaged and curious of the two, meeting local dignitaries and attempting to forge a personal connection with the people. This was the performance of power, a carefully curated exhibition of monarchy intended to legitimize their rule and dazzle the populace into submission. Every polished floor, glittering chandelier, and perfectly executed court ceremony was part of this grand display. But beneath the shimmering surface, the grand gallery was becoming a corridor of mystery and dread. Whispers and rumors echoed in the hallways, carried on secret dispatches and coded telegrams. The most alarming news came from the north. In 1865, the American Civil War concluded, freeing the United States to turn its full attention to the Monroe Doctrine and the French intervention on its border. Washington refused to recognize Maximilian's government and began supplying Benito Juárez's Republican forces with weapons and funds. An even greater mystery surrounded the intentions of their own sponsor, Napoleon III. Facing domestic opposition and the rising power of Prussia in Europe, the French emperor's commitment to his Mexican adventure was waning. Dispatches from Paris grew vague, promises became non-committal. The very foundation of their power, the French army, was becoming uncertain. This corridor, once appearing to lead towards a glorious future, was now filled with shadows. Each step forward brought a greater sense of foreboding, a chilling mystery of what lay ahead as the support they depended on threatened to vanish, leaving them utterly alone. As the empire began to fracture under immense pressure, the center of gravity shifted from the emperor to the empress. Maximilian, prone to bouts of depression and indecisiveness, began to withdraw, retreating further into his botanical studies and plans for a quiet life. It was Charlotte who stepped into the vacuum, transforming her personal sphere, the Queen's chamber, into the true political nerve center of the regime. She worked tirelessly, managing state affairs, writing memoranda, and attempting to rally their dwindling supporters. Her resolve hardened even as her husband's softened. But her chamber was also a place of growing desperation. From it, she sent out enigmatic shafts, frantic, targeted pleas for help, shot like arrows into the void. She wrote impassioned letters to European royals, to Napoleon III, to anyone she thought could influence their fate, but the replies were few and non-committal. These shafts of communication, meant to penetrate the walls of indifference surrounding them, simply disappeared into darkness. The most significant of these shafts was her final, desperate gamble. With the news of Napoleon III's planned withdrawal of all French troops, Charlotte resolved to travel to Europe herself. She would confront the French emperor in person, plead their case to Pope Pius IX, and rally support for their cause. It was a mission born of her iron will, but also of a mind beginning to fray. The strain of the past 2 years had taken its toll. The constant threats, the betrayals, and the crushing weight of a failing empire had started to carve enigmatic shafts into her own psyche. Paranoia began to take root. She saw assassins in every shadow and poison in every meal. She believed they were surrounded by a vast conspiracy orchestrated by Napoleon himself. Her journey to Europe was not just a political mission. It was a flight from the collapsing Queen's chamber in Mexico and the beginning of a descent into the dark, labyrinthine corridors of her own mind, from which she would never truly return. For 2 decades, the Giza Plateau had been a scene of organized chaos, a testament to human will and engineering. But as the final layers of the Great Pyramid were put into place, a new phase of construction began. one that would transform the colossal step-like structure into a sublime geometric marvel. This was the age of the casing stones. Quarried from the hills of Tura across the Nile was a fine white limestone of exceptional quality. Unlike the rougher structural limestone of the pyramid's core, the Tura stone was dense, pure, and capable of being polished to a brilliant, almost mirror-like finish. An army of skilled masons worked these blocks with astonishing precision, cutting them at exact angles to fit perfectly against the pyramid's sloped faces. Each block, weighing several tons, was ferried across the river and hauled up the monument. As they were set in place, the joints between them were so fine that a knife blade could not be inserted. The result was a seamless, unified surface. Once all 144,000 casing stones were in position, the final, painstaking work began. Laborers polished the vast white faces until they gleamed under the powerful Egyptian sun. The pyramid was no longer a mountain of stone. It was a beacon of light, visible for miles, reflecting the sun's rays like a divine jewel set upon the earth. To crown this achievement, a capstone, or pyramidion, was placed at the very apex. While its exact fate is unknown, ancient texts suggest it may have been covered in electrum, a natural alloy of gold and silver. Imagine the sight: a gleaming white pyramid, its peak blazing with the fire of the sun, a symbol not just of the pharaoh's power, but of his direct connection to the heavens. It was a stairway to the stars, a physical manifestation of the sun god Ra on earth, a perfect, otherworldly form that declared the absolute and eternal divinity of the king. To view the Great Pyramid as a singular, isolated structure is to miss the true scope and purpose of its design. It was merely the centerpiece, albeit the most spectacular one, of a vast and intricate complex dedicated to the cult of the dead king. This entire sacred landscape was a meticulously planned necropolis, a city of the dead that mirrored the world of the living. The pharaoh's funeral procession did not simply arrive at the pyramid's base. It began at a valley temple on the banks of a canal connected to the Nile. Here, purification and mummification rites were completed. From this temple, a covered, decorated causeway, nearly a kilometer long, sloped upwards to the mortuary temple. This was the true heart of the king's cult, situated directly against the pyramid's eastern face. It was here that priests would perform daily rituals, burning incense and leaving offerings of food and drink to sustain the pharaoh's spirit for all eternity. Surrounding the Great Pyramid were 3 smaller pyramids for Khufu's queens. Further out, laid out in a precise grid, were rows of flat-topped tombs, called mastabas, the eternal homes for the king's relatives and highest officials, allowing them to serve him in death as they had in life. Perhaps most astonishing were the boat pits. 5 pits were dug into the bedrock around the pyramid, and in 2 of them, full-sized, disassembled cedarwood ships were buried. These were the solar barks, magical vessels intended to carry the reborn king across the sky with the sun god Ra by day and through the underworld by night. And standing silent guard over this entire complex was the Great Sphinx, believed to have been carved during the reign of Khufu's son, Khafre. This colossal lion with a human head was the ultimate guardian, a terrifying and divine protector of the sacred plateau. The Old Kingdom, the era of the Great Pyramid builders, could not last forever. As central authority waned and Egypt entered periods of instability, the resources and political will required for such monumental projects vanished. With this decline came a profound forgetting. The pyramids, once the active centers of a royal cult, slowly fell silent. Their first violation was not by time, but by human hands. Despite the intricate security measures, the promise of unimaginable treasure proved too tempting. Ancient tomb robbers, likely possessing inside knowledge, managed to bypass the granite plugs and portcullises, ransacking the burial chambers and making off with the pharaoh's grave goods. The pyramids had failed in their primary function, to protect the king's body. This failure led to a fundamental shift in burial practices. Later pharaohs of the New Kingdom abandoned the conspicuous pyramid form, choosing instead to hide their tombs in the remote Valley of the Kings. The second great destruction came much later. Following the Arab conquest in the 7th century AD, the burgeoning city of Cairo needed building materials. The pyramids, with their gleaming white shells, were the perfect quarry. For centuries, workers systematically stripped the Great Pyramid of its polished Tura limestone casing, leaving behind the rough, stepped core we see today. The knowledge of the builders faded into legend. Later visitors, like the Greek historian Herodotus, could only relay fantastical stories told by local guides about their construction. The identity of the pharaohs themselves was obscured, their names lost to all but the silent hieroglyphs. The pyramids became objects of pure mystery, their creation attributed to giants, aliens, or lost civilizations. They stood as stripped, empty, and anonymous monuments, their true purpose and the genius of their architects completely forgotten, waiting millennia for the tools of modern Egyptology to begin piecing their story back together. For nearly 3.5 millennia, the Great Pyramid of Giza held its secrets in absolute silence, a sealed and sacred monument on the desert plateau. That silence was violently broken in the 9th century by a man driven by an insatiable curiosity for knowledge, and perhaps a thirst for legendary treasure, the Abbasid Caliph Abdullah al-Mamun. Around the year 820 AD, the Caliph arrived at Giza with an army of engineers, scholars, and laborers. He was a great patron of the sciences, having founded the House of Wisdom in Baghdad, and he was determined to penetrate the pyramid's mysteries. Finding the original sealed entrance undiscoverable, al-Mamun ordered his men to do the unthinkable, to force their way through the solid limestone casing. They employed brute force, lighting massive fires against the stone and then dousing the heated rock with cold vinegar, causing it to crack and shatter. It was a slow, arduous process. For weeks they hammered and chiseled, boring a rough tunnel straight into the pyramid's core. Finally, deep within the structure, a stroke of luck. A laborer heard the sound of a stone falling in a nearby passage. Redirecting their efforts, they broke through into the descending passage, a corridor built by the pyramid's original architects. They had found their way in. The team explored the dark, narrow passageways, their torches casting flickering shadows on the ancient stone. They discovered the ascending passage, cleared the granite plugs blocking it, and finally reached the heart of the structure, the king's chamber. But here, the great anticlimax awaited them. The chamber was stark, austere, and empty, save for a massive, lidless granite sarcophagus. There was no treasure, no golden artifacts, no mummified remains of the pharaoh Khufu. The legendary riches were nowhere to be found. Accounts from Arab historians suggest that to quell the mutinous disappointment of his men, who had toiled for weeks with no reward, Al-Mamun had treasure from his own coffers secretly planted in the pyramid for them to discover. Whether this is true or not, the caliph's breach was a pivotal moment. The pyramid's inviolability was over. For the first time since its construction, its inner sanctums were open to the world, marking the beginning of a new history of exploration, plunder, and a relentless quest to understand its purpose. 1,000 years after Al-Mamun's breach, the Great Pyramid was visited by another powerful conqueror, one who would change its destiny, not with brute force, but with the tools of science. In 1798, Napoleon Bonaparte landed in Egypt with his army, but he did not come alone. Accompanying his soldiers was a contingent of 167 savants, engineers, mathematicians, astronomers, artists, and naturalists. Their mission was not just conquest, but a complete scientific survey of this ancient land. As the French army stood before the Giza plateau, they were struck with a profound sense of awe. These were men of the Enlightenment, children of reason and logic, yet they were humbled by the sheer scale and antiquity of the monuments before them. This was a turning point. The pyramid was no longer just a source of potential treasure or a local landmark. It was now an object of intense scientific curiosity. The savants of the Commission des Sciences et des Arts set to work with meticulous precision. They conducted the first accurate survey of the pyramid, measuring its base, calculating its height, and determining its precise orientation to the cardinal points. Artists like Vivant Denon sketched every detail of the structure and its surroundings. Their collective efforts would culminate in the monumental publication, Description de l'Égypte, a work that effectively launched the modern science of Egyptology and ignited a wave of Egyptomania across Europe. Amidst this flurry of scientific activity, a legend was born. Napoleon, ever the man of destiny, allegedly asked to spend a night alone inside the king's chamber, the very same empty room that had disappointed Al-Mamun. According to the story, he emerged the next morning pale and shaken. When an aide asked if he had witnessed anything extraordinary, Napoleon curtly replied that he had no comment, adding, "You would never believe me." Whatever happened that night, if anything, he took the secret to his grave. The Napoleonic expedition fundamentally shifted our relationship with the pyramid, transforming it from a mysterious monolith into a subject for academic inquiry, ensuring that its secrets would henceforth be pursued with notebooks and measuring tools rather than hammers and chisels. For centuries, the exploration of the Great Pyramid was an invasive, often destructive process. From Al-Mamun's tunnel to the gunpowder blasting methods of early explorers like Howard Weiss, learning its secrets often came at the cost of damaging the monument itself. But in the 21st century, a new era of archaeology has dawned, one that allows us to peer inside the pyramid's massive stone body without moving a single block. The key lies in harnessing the power of the cosmos itself. The Scan Pyramids project, launched in 2015, brought together an international team of scientists from Egypt, France, Canada, and Japan to apply cutting-edge, non-invasive physics to the ancient structure. Their primary tool is muon tomography. Muons are subatomic particles created when cosmic rays from deep space strike the Earth's upper atmosphere. They rain down on the planet constantly, and because they are more energetic than X-rays, they can penetrate hundreds of meters of stone. By placing highly sensitive detectors within and around the pyramid, scientists can track the trajectory of these particles. If a region has fewer muons passing through it than expected, it indicates a void, an area of lower density, which could be a hidden passage or chamber. For 2 years, the team collected data, patiently building a high-resolution 3D map of the pyramid's internal structure. In 2017, they made a stunning announcement that electrified the world of archaeology. Their data revealed a massive, previously unknown void located directly above the Grand Gallery. This anomaly, dubbed the Scan Pyramid's Big Void, is at least 30 meters long and several meters high, comparable in scale to the Grand Gallery itself. The discovery ignited a firestorm of speculation. What is its purpose? Is it a hidden chamber containing Khufu's true burial? Is it a structural feature designed by the ancient engineers to relieve pressure on the Grand Gallery below? Or could it be an internal ramp used during construction? The beauty of the discovery lies in its non-invasive nature. The void remains unseen and untouched, its existence confirmed only by the silent passage of cosmic particles. This technological leap has transformed the pyramid once again, revealing that even after 4,500 years, this ancient wonder is still capable of revealing new and profound secrets. Of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, 6 have crumbled to dust, victims of time, war, and the relentless forces of nature. The Lighthouse of Alexandria, the Colossus of Rhodes, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, they exist now only as words on a page, echoes in history. Only one remains. The Great Pyramid of Giza is not just a survivor. It is the oldest and most enduring wonder of them all, a tangible link to the dawn of civilization. Its legacy is as monumental as its structure. For 4,500 years, it has stood as the ultimate symbol of human ambition, ingenuity, and our quest for eternity. It is a masterpiece of engineering, a structure of over 2 million stone blocks, aligned almost perfectly to the cardinal directions, and incorporating mathematical constants like pi and the golden ratio, with an accuracy that continues to baffle researchers. It was the tallest man-made structure on Earth for over 3,800 years, a record of longevity that is unlikely ever to be broken. But its legacy transcends its physical dimensions. The pyramid is a cultural touchstone, a powerful magnet for the human imagination. It has inspired mystics and scientists, poets and filmmakers, historians and conspiracy theorists. It has been interpreted as a pharaoh's tomb, a power plant, an astronomical observatory, a message from a lost civilization, and even a beacon for extraterrestrial visitors. This capacity to absorb and reflect our own changing beliefs and obsessions is a core part of its power. From Al-Mamun's forced entry to the cosmic ray scans of the 21st century, every generation has approached the pyramid with its own questions and its own tools. Yet, despite centuries of intense study, it refuses to yield all its secrets. The discovery of the Big Void is a potent reminder that we have not yet solved all of its puzzles. The Great Pyramid's ultimate legacy, therefore, is its profound and enduring mystery. It stands in silent testament to a civilization that achieved the seemingly impossible, forcing us to confront the limits of our own knowledge. It is more than a monument of stone. It is a monument to the eternal questions that define the human experience.